really happy and really confident at home and in the brown spaces that I existed in. Two different worlds and two different lives. And the Raakhee that people knew at school and the Raakhee that people knew at home were two different girls. I really wanted to find books that our families were reflected in. And I know you know what my family looks like, but my husband is a turban-wearing Sikh. My daughter has two really long braids, right? She doesn't cut her hair. And we were missing. We were missing from Kidlit. We were missing from movies. We were just missing. I wrote that book for Satya. I wrote it because I wanted her to know that, like, girl, you have main character energy. So sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll say, okay, I want to explore this some more. More often than not, I do not have an idea and it's so bad. And then I really just like, you know how I always think it's like so magical when you like open a book to a page and you're like, this thing will speak to me. Never happens to me.
And the roti is so fluff.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't look anything like my
I've never made a roti like this in my life. I was laughing.
But it's beautiful. Whoever their mom is, they're like...
I was like, that's a good mom, not like me. I was like, I buy rotis at Patel Brothers. People are like, I have an idea for a book. And I said, what'd you do with it? Well, no, it's just an idea. You gotta sit down, you gotta write it. That is the biggest piece of advice I can give you. 500.
500?
500, 600. Like, come on, man. How long? Now, they're good. They're 500 good words. And I can tell you that to get to the 500 words, I've written probably like 4,000 bad words.
Sure.
Or more. Do you know what I mean? Especially, you know, when you live in the United States, like, we are many things at one time.
Right.
AI is great. It's not a person. It's not going to replace humans and human storytelling.
Creativity, yeah.
And creativity and the warmth and like genuine excitement that comes from people sharing their stories. AI can't do that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rising Immigrant Show. I'm Jasmine, and today's guest is a multi-talented powerhouse. She's an author, a journalist, a podcast host, and a passionate community advocate. She has experience working as a writer and editor at the New York Post, New York Daily News, and Boston Herald. Her writing work has appeared in major outlets like Elle, Glamour, Wall Street Journal, and HuffPost. She has also served as the editor-in-chief of Moneyish, a publication of Dow Jones. And my favorite part of her career is that she is an author of 5 children's books, including Super Satya Saves the Day and her soon-to-be-released books Mama's Roti and Kamla Raised Her Hand. And she is a proud Jersey girl and a mom to a fierce daughter who beat cancer before she could walk. Allow me to welcome Raakhee Mirchandani. Welcome, Raakhee.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
So how are you?
I'm great. You know, we could have done this in Hoboken, Jasmine. We live just blocks from each other.
That's right. And how was summer for you?
Summer was amazing. We spent it at the Jersey Shore. Lots of bike riding, shell collecting. Just good, wholesome Jersey Shore fun.
Awesome. And how has back to school been for you?
You know, I was so excited for Satya to go back to school because
yeah,
I love that child. That's my girl. But it is exhausting to, you know, be on it all day long every day. And I sent her back to school. And I texted my friend and I was like, I am the worst person. I was so excited to send her back to school. And now I think I miss her. What is wrong with me?
It's okay. You know what I texted my girlfriends? I said, Happy Independence Day.
It is. That is a normal approach. I was so angry at myself for being like,
no,
ew, do I miss her?
You're fine. You're fine. They're good at the school. They're doing their thing.
Oh my God. I wish I went to her school, frankly. But
right. Oh, well, now we're in the fall, ready to get back into the groove.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. How has, work been for you lately?
Look, I am in the incredible position being able to say the following sentence. I have 2 books coming out this fall. I have wanted to be a writer, an author for my entire life. I'm 43 years old, and when I tell you my entire life, there was like a brief stint of life that I wanted to be an astronaut, and I was super clear, super fast that I did not have what it takes to be an astronaut, but I have what it takes to be a writer. And I cannot believe that there are 2 books coming out on the same day.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Fall. October
Very
28th.
exciting.
2 books, Mama's Roti and Kamala raised her hand. And
So
I took the day off of work. Like, I'm just so excited about this day. I feel like a little girl.
That's awesome. We're going to come back to these 2 books. But before we do that, I wanted to go back to your childhood.
Oh, my goodness.
Tell me a little bit about little Raakhee. Who were you? What were you like?
You know, my mom tells a different story than I do. And the story that she tells, I think, is better than the one that I remember. Because I remember being really happy and really confident at home and in the brown spaces that I existed in. So we went to this place called the Sadhu Vaswani Center. It was like a Sindhi center. My parents are Sindhi. They're children of refugees. My mother was born in South America. My dad was born in the Philippines. They found their way to Mumbai later in their life. And I remember when I was in those brown spaces, I felt really comfortable and really confident and really funny and really wanted and really clever. But I didn't feel like that at school. I didn't feel like that anywhere else. And so I think for a long time, I had 2 different worlds and 2 different lives. And the Raakhee that people knew at school and the Raakhee that people knew at home were 2 different girls. And those girls really never met each other. And I had very few friends at school. Not that I was, it's not like I sat alone every day and ate my lunch, but I had very few friends. I really did feel like I didn't belong in school. And I had wonderful teachers. All of those things were in place. It's just that I was not super clear at that time that there were parts of me that were unexplored and there were parts of me that I was hiding from people. And it wasn't really until that I got to college. And I know that sounds so wild because that is the long life.
Right.
But it wasn't until I got to college that I felt like those 2 worlds were merged and that I could really start to explore what a holistic version of myself looked like and felt like and who that person was.
So why did you feel the need to be a different person at school?
There wasn't a lot of Indian folks in the mix. I felt like the representation of us was, I remember, I think it was maybe 3rd or 4th grade, one of the kids in my class was like, oh, does your dad own a 7-Eleven? And I remember being embarrassed by that. And then, like, you know, when you think about it, you're like, dude, I wish my dad owned a 7-Eleven.
I know, right?
That's like
How cool.
super solid hustle. I'd get mad Slurpees and we'd have a lot of money. So I don't know why I thought that was an insult, but it was an insult at that time.
Maybe the way you say it.
And it's the expectations of what American was and the expectations of what hard work was and what success was, right? There wasn't that entrepreneurial spirit. My dad's been an entrepreneur since he came to this country.
But this
I didn't know
term
what
is
that
new.
word was.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was in 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Right.
And they, you know, so it was like the convenience store Apu on The Simpsons. Like that guy was, that guy ruined my life, man.
Yeah.
And we faced, everything was an uphill struggle. I felt so isolated. I felt so different. And not in a way that I feel different now, but I feel great about that. And I see Satya. Satya's super clear about who she is. That kid is 10.
And a lot of these, topics that we're talking about here, self-discovery, a lot of these cultural narratives, we see that in your books. Is that the reason you decided to write books on these topics, or how do your personal experiences translate into your books?
So my books, I started my career I've been a journalist for a really long time. That's what I studied in college. I was a working journalist as soon as I graduated school, right? I grew up in that world and I was really happy and really content telling other people's stories. I loved that. I loved going out in New York City, talking to people I didn't know, getting their perspective, their worldview, and being able to share that back, right? I love that feeling. I love talking to new people. I love meeting new people. This was a great job for me. What I realized as I had Satya was I had never really stopped to think about my own story. I'd never stopped to think about my mother's story. I never really stopped to share any of those stories. And when Satya was little, I really wanted to find books that our families were reflected in. And I know you know what my family looks like, but my husband is a turban-wearing Sikh. Yeah. My daughter has 2 really long braids, right? She doesn't cut her hair. And we we were missing. We were missing from Kidlit. We were missing from movies. We were just missing. And so I wrote Super Satya Saves the Day, which is my first book. It feels like a lifetime ago. But it was only 2016, I guess. Or 2018, sorry. And I wrote that book for Satya. I wrote it because I wanted her to know that, like, girl, you have main character energy. You are on the cover of that book. Your dad's on the cover of that book. Your mom's on the cover of the book because we deserve to be on the cover of that book.
And you want to be seen, right? You want characters in books and movies to represent you and your life.
Yes.
It makes it so relatable. Yeah.
And that book is not... I'm not a cultural tour guide, right? That book is not. That book is about a little girl who is scared to go down a slide, and she's got to figure out: does she have the stuff inside of her? Does she have that bravery and that fierceness to tackle something that she's scared of? And that's what that book is about. All of my stories and all of my books are rooted in us. They're rooted in the South Asian experience, the Indian American diaspora, the stories of our community and our family.
Right. But isn't that the story of every kid? Yeah. You know, with your book, when I first read it to my son, of course, you know, he loved it. We loved it as a family. We still read it. My younger one now reads that book.
I love it.
But when I read that book, I said, you know, it's the story of every child.
Totally.
But just the fact that you can visualize yourself, it makes a whole lot of difference.
A huge
Because it's like
difference.
Your story is not different than mine. You know, we're all living the same
Absolutely.
life. We do look different, but we're the same.
And I love the idea of your little boys reading this book because there's a little boy in that book with a patka.
Right.
And it's super simple, but it's really important to me. Those things are just very important to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember when my second book came out, Hair Twins. So Hair Twins is the story of a dad and a daughter, right? It's a dad and a daughter getting about their business. And the dad does the daughter's hair a couple of times during the day for different things. And this is a story that goes on in my house every day, right? My husband, Agan, does Satya's hair every day. They watch Diljit music videos since she was like 2 years old. And he does her hair. Now, it sounds so simple, right? It's a story about a dad doing a daughter's hair. And that's the point, is that it's the bond between these two. But if you want more as a reader, as a parent, as a child, there's more for you, because you will then read the author's note and you say, why are they hair twins? What do I know about their culture? What do I know about their community? Do I want to know more? The answer could be no. And you might be satisfied with this sweet story about a dad and a daughter. But it's an invitation too. Here's my family, here's my culture, here's my community. It's an invitation for you to learn more about me, but also for you to share who you are with others.
No, that's beautiful. So when you write these books, Raakhee, what is your creative process? Of course, you said, you know, you're looking at your own life and using real people, your family members as main characters in these books.
All the time.
So special. Oh my God. If it was my son, he would have loved it.
All the time.
And hopefully Satya loves that too. But what's your writing process like?
Well, there are two, I don't know, not two, probably many more, but there's a few things that I do that I think are very that part of my process. Is this like a playbook for everybody? Probably not. It's kind of a weird process, but this is my process. I write every single day.
Oh,
I make sure that
That's
I
a
write
commitment.
30 minutes every single day.
What do you write about?
So sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll say, okay, I want to explore this some more.
Sure.
More often than not, I do not have an idea and it's so bad. And then I really just like, you know how I always think it's like so magical when you like open a book to a page and you're like, this thing will speak to me. Never happens to me. So I just use writing prompts. So I'll be like, today I'm going to write, and I will pick something so random and so weird, and I will write about that. Sometimes that's what it takes. I write about the weather. Sometimes I write about a memory that I was thinking about. Sometimes I write about my grandma. Sometimes I write about, you know, like today I'm wearing this ring. And I maybe 2 months ago or so, I used this ring as a writing prompt. I really get stuck sometimes. Not everything I write is good. That's why I write every day. So I'm really not under a lot of pressure, because who cares if it's not good today? It'll be good tomorrow or day after or next week.
And sometimes it takes a while to get in the groove, right?
Yes.
You write a few things and they're like, oh no, you fix it here and there.
And that's
then
it.
Third day,
and sometimes I write a paragraph. Sometimes I write a poem. Sometimes I write a short story.
Very nice.
But it's 30 minutes and I'm super serious about it. Often in that process, I will be like, oh, this is a nice sentence. This is a nice turn. This is a nice turn of phrase. then I'll highlight it and I keep it in a document. I'll be like, I'll throw it in somewhere at some point. And so I like that a lot.
Do you use pen and paper? Or
no, I do it on a laptop.
Okay.
Sometimes if I'm like feeling mobile in the summer, I do this a lot. I get on my bike, I ride down to the beach in Asbury and I write on my phone, which is fine, right? Because it looks different every day and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's a commitment to do it 30 minutes a day. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is I am super inspired when I write in spaces where there are other people. I am not a solitary creature. I could never be by myself and write. I find it horrible. So I like to sit in public places and write. So I'm very lucky.
Cafe or,
I live in Hoboken. So I'm so lucky. I'm spoiled for choice. You can find me at Shokopan. Hey, coffee people. You can find me at Mojo. You can always find me at the bar at Moran's in the corner. I love writing there.
I love that.
I wrote Hair Twins at the bar at Court Street. Like that's where I love to write. And I always will tell the bartender, like, I'm going to sit here for a long time. I'm not going to be drinking this whole time. I'm going to have one beer and a lot of water, but is it all right if I sit here? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Sure. No, and you can find a friend while you're sitting there chit-chatting.
And I love that. Like, I love watching the people. I write. Someone will sit next to me. Like, I really enjoy that process part of it. I'm really inspired by human beings.
Everybody has, something to offer.
Yeah, I love people, like, really hard. I love people. So it's really good for me to be in these kind of environments. And then my third part of the process is that, or one part of it, I guess, is I read a ton. I read a ton. I read so much middle grade, young adult, picture books. I'll read anything. I really do feel like it is incredibly, first of all, I love reading because it just is so transformational. You're just transported to all these places. People are so creative. It makes me so happy. But also it makes me feel more creative when I read really good things by other people.
That's awesome. Love it. Now tell me, Raakhee, you've written 5 children's books.
I think, honestly, I don't even remember now, but I think there might even be more. I don't even know.
You have more coming up.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even know anymore, which is such a good problem.
That's awesome. So how important do you think is a book cover in attracting new readers or, for marketing reasons?
Oh my God, I think it's so important. But so I buy so many books based on covers, by the way. Like I love going to Little City Books or Asbury Book Cooperative. I love bookstores. And I'll just go around and just, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good, and I buy it. So yes, I think they're very important. Yeah. I have had the incredible privilege of working with incredible artists on my books. Holly Haddam, Supriya Kelkar, Shreya Gupta, like these amazing, amazing artists. I couldn't even imagine what these book covers would look like. I don't know, I'm just the words lady, like I have no clue. But when I see a cover like Hair Twins or My Diwali Light or Mama's Rotis, I'm like, oh yeah, I would totally buy this.
Beautiful,
book.
by the way. Yeah, love the colors, love what's going on
she's
here.
So talented.
Yeah,
She's so
and the
talented.
roti is so fluff.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't look anything like my roti.
I've never made a roti like this in my life. I was laughing.
But it's beautiful. Whoever their mom is, they're like...
I was like, that's a good mom, not like me. I was like, I buy rotis at Patel Brothers, okay?
There you go. You're my girl.
That's how I do it. I was like, I should probably learn how to roll rotis. I wrote this book about roti. I was like, you know what? You could buy them. It's all right.
There you go.
You still love your
kids. So now that we're talking about this book, tell me more about Mama's Roti.
So Mama's Roti is a book that is inspired by the farmers' protest in India. I was incredibly moved, like so many of us, by the farmers who were protesting in India during COVID. They're all so special to me. They're like, they're just parts of me, right? That's what books are. They're really parts of me that I share with you. This one, it was an Instagram post. Like I just posted on social one day during COVID. I really was genuinely moved by the farmers' protest. I was so moved by Khalsa Aid and the work they were doing. And our community is so beautiful and I feel so proud of who we are. Right. And so I posted something on Instagram about farmers and my friend Tammy Charles is a New York Times bestselling author, read the Instagram post and was like, Raakhee, you got to write a book about this. It didn't even occur to me. And my editor saw that. And she was like, Raakhee, write a book about this. And I did. Like, I didn't even know that it was a book. I just knew it was something in my heart. And they both were like, you have to write this. And I wrote it in like a moment. It felt exactly right for me. And I'm so lucky to have such a great editor, Sam. She's just a huge champion of my heart.
Oh, that's wonderful. So if you think about your readers, young kids who are reading these stories, what type of impression do you want to make on them? What is the impact that you hope your books have on these children?
I think the biggest thing, if I had to really distill it, is that I want kids to be proud of who they are. I want kids also to be comfortable and able and genuinely excited to share their own stories. But I also want them to be comfortable, able, and genuinely excited to receive somebody else's story. And that, to me, would be the biggest win of any of these books. If any child sat down, a young reader sat down and was like, you know what? I love this book, or I love this story. I also have something I'm proud of about my culture, my identity, my home, my parents, and I want to share it. That would be, honestly, I could say that like I would have had some impact in this world in a positive way if that happens.
If we talk about the reading skills, you just sent, kids, young readers reading. I just recently read an article on Medium, I think it was last week, and I read that AI, with the rise of AI, reading skills are declining in children, right? And it's also leading to decline in the critical thinking aspect of it. So what do you have to say about it? What are your thoughts on this?
I think that there are certain parts of our like sort of modern life that you just got to get in with. Right? You can't, there's some parts that are worth like raging against the machine. And there's some parts that aren't worth it. So like I'll take the cell phone as an example. My kid's going to be 11 soon. So many of her friends have cell phones. I'm like, girl, you're not getting a cell phone. You don't need that. AI is different. Like there are parts of AI that I think could be really useful. I think that can like be really helpful for her. And I also want her and I to both be comfortable with the new technologies that exist in the world. Right? We don't live in a way where you can just ignore it and pretend like it doesn't exist. Here's the thing about books and reading and people. Like AI is great. It's not a person. It's not going to replace humans and human storytelling.
And creativity,
And creativity and the warmth and like genuine excitement that comes from people sharing their stories. AI can't do that. So I think it's about figuring out ways where the AI is helpful for us and useful to us. But people are people. That's what makes us so great,
And continue to, keep reading on, keep creating exciting stories.
I can't imagine a world where someone's like, it'd be great. I'm going to have Alexa read to my kid instead of me. Like, don't do that. But like maybe sometimes do that if you can. You know what I mean? But like, Uggan used to read to Satya every night. That was his thing with her. It's so funny. I'm the author, but he would do it every single night. And they still read together. But they still read together. Satya is the most voracious reader I've ever seen in my life. She carries around this backpack. I call her Dora. And it's just stuffed with books. Like huge books. And she walks around all the time. Anywhere you take her, she takes her backpack with her books. How is that going to be replaced? It's not. It's not.
Right.
If she was I'm waiting for the day where she's like, Ma, it'd be great, a Kindle. Because then I don't have to carry around all these heavy books.
Yeah, that's easy.
But if you would have told me 10 years ago, Raakhee, would you ever get a Kindle? I'd be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why not?
But now why not?
It kind of seems great. She doesn't have to carry out 19 books.
Makes sense. So do you have any tips for me on how can I instill good reading habits in my kids or anybody else who's
okay, so I think I do have some tips. No, I was like, oh, don't ask me for parenting tips. I'm so bad.
I guess we're all figuring it out. So.
It's like I'm the worst. Reading tips. Oh, yeah, I think I have some. One, I think that you got to read to your kids a lot. You gotta read to your kids. It doesn't matter if they're newborns, if they're 4 months old, if they're 2 years old, if they're 5 years old, 8 years old. Read to your kids. Take time and spend that time together. I really do think when we quiet the noise around us, we're talking 10 minutes, right? Where we share those moments together. It is amazing the conversations that develop out of the books that we read together. So one, I think you gotta read together. Two, get a library card. Libraries are the most magical places in the world. I sit on the board of the Hoboken Public Library. It is the most fantastic institution. I grew up at libraries because my parents worked and I would wait at the library for them to pick me up after work. It is how I discovered my love of reading, new authors. They have exciting programs and it's free, y'all. There is no reason.
Yep, exactly.
There is just no reason not to get a library card and do that.
And there's something about, feeling a book,
it's
going through the pages. Yeah, I love that feeling.
Also, I love that you can go to a library and be like, do you have this book? And then they say no, and they'll say, we'll get it for you. How great is that?
Exactly.
I just love, I'm obsessed with libraries. So I think get a library card. That is an amazing way to instill a love of reading because they also have programming.
Right.
So that makes reading a lot of fun. The third thing that I think is really worthwhile and maybe like a little bit more strange, but I really like the idea of book clubbing with your kid. So when Satya reads a book at school, I like to read it too. And sometimes I don't have time. I'll listen to it. I get that part. And it doesn't have to be every book. Like, I'm not in 5th grade, But I've been doing this for years with her. And it's really fun because I know then the kinds of questions I have when I read the book. So sometimes when we're eating dinner, I might just bring it up. And it's a fun conversation starter.
It's also a way to connect with your daughter. Yeah, I love that.
So I do that too.
Oh, that's great. So who are your favorite authors? Who do you love the most?
I'm obsessed with reading, as I told you. I have so many favorite authors, but I spend a lot of time reading the middle grade young adult space. So I'm very, very interested in Supriya Kelkar. I don't know if you've read American is Paneer Pie. I'm obsessed with that book. I love all of her books. She's so creative. She's also one of my best friends, which is so fun. Mirchandani and the School for Good and Evil series. Satya just read every single one of them and just couldn't get enough. Satya's really into fantasy. So I like to read when she reads that kind of stuff too. I grew up though with sort of the Beverly Cleary, Judy Blume.
Okay.
I was like in a deep way. And I loved those characters. I loved Harriet the Spy. And I loved those characters because they felt so much like me. They were like these super quirky, like kind of weird, but really fun girls. And I loved reading about them. And for me, that's the biggest connection point, like I love that feeling. But yeah, I'll read, I love Saintani Dasgupta. I'll read.
So many great authors.
There's just like we're spoiled for choice. And I just finished Yellowface. That was great. It was like you just can't stop. You can't put it down. It's so good. But I really love Desi authors. I'm still in a place in my life where it makes me feel really good to read them. But I make a huge effort to read books about communities that I don't know a lot about. And I think that's
a way for us to learn about them. And also, probably shows in our storytelling as well.
And that's just it. And there's like universalities to the storytelling, but also there's so many nuances to communities that are so fun to learn about.
Right.
And so I love to do that too. So that's been exciting for me as well.
So for anybody who's, thinking about writing a story or thinking about, being a writer, either professionally or for fun, do you have any advice for them? How can they find their voice and how can they tell stories which are close to their heart?
I really think the best thing so people DM me on Instagram all the time or email me and be like, Raakhee, can I get 15 minutes on a call just to talk about my writing? And the thing that I say over and over again, people are like, I have an idea for a book. And I said, what'd you do with it? Well, no, it's just an idea. You got to sit down, you got to write it. That is the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is you got to sit down and you have to write it. People get so concerned with the next steps. I need an agent. I needed this. All of the other things that come after. Just sit down and write. That's the first step. You got to just sit down and you got to write it. It might be terrible. It might be great. It doesn't matter. It's probably going to be somewhere in between terrible and great.
So how do we know if it's good or not?
So then the thing that I think is very useful is to join a writer's group. And there's tons of them in the communities you live in. But that sort of peer-to-peer review is exceptional. Peer-to-peer review is how I've made so many, I think, strides as a writer. It's like you sit down in a writer's group and you make a commitment to each other, right? I'm going to get this many pages done. I'm going to get the story done.
You can also exchange ideas.
That's what we do.
Listen to what others love that.
And there's tons of them in every community.
Got it. So how long does it typically take for a book to come out?
Well, it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years for a picture book.
2 to 3 years.
Because the artists have to work super hard. Like, here's the big secret with a picture book, right? How many words do you think are in a picture book? Ballpark it. What do you think?
1,500?
500.
500?
500, 600. Like, come on, man.
Uh-huh.
How long? Now, they're good. They're 500 good words. And I can tell you that to get to the 500 words, I've written probably like 4,000 bad words.
Sure.
Or more. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not great in the beginning. However, the art is what takes so much time because these artists are, they read your words and then imagine their own world around it and all that scaffolding, and that's all them. You know, sometimes people will tell me, like, wow, you did such an amazing job with this book. And I was like, what did you like? And they'll show me the art. And I was like, no, I get it. Me too.
So do you go back and forth with the artists?
Sometimes. Supriya and I collaborate a lot, but we're best friends. So like that makes sense. Holly and I collaborate a lot. We're great friends too. But not always. That doesn't always happen. And it works in both ways. Do you know what I mean? Now, while a lot of these books take, 2-3 years easily, we made a picture book in 10 days this summer.
How did that happen? You just said 2 to 3 years.
We made a book in 10 days this summer. It's unheard of. I didn't even know this was the thing. It's called A Crash. I have no idea. Supriya has written like 10, 12 books. Like, she knows everything. So she's like, she uses words sometimes. I'm like, this is not even real, Supriya, but it's real. So Kamala Harris announced her, Joe Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday.
Right.
Kamala Harris announced that Sunday as well. Sunday night, I sent an email to my editor. Monday morning, she got back to me. By Thursday, I think Wednesday, she got the go-ahead. She needed the book by Thursday. I wrote it overnight.
Oh, my God. How did you do it? How did you do it?
I think sometimes I wish like I would have written down a little bit more about the process at that point, but I felt like this is going to sound weird, so just bear with me. But I really feel like I had a creative spirit, like a Devi inside of me who was just like making it happen. I can't even remember all of it, but I know I wrote a book overnight and I handed it in the morning. And it was done and it was great. And I didn't even remember writing some of the words.
But you did it.
But I did.
But
then Supriya did the hard part.
But to your credit, you also have those thousands of hours of writing, right? I mean, to
That's
get
it.
to that point,
That's it.
I guess you have to go through that
It's like
process.
a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have biceps because I don't sit in the gym as I should and build my biceps. I really want to have biceps, man. But I don't have them because they don't happen in one day. But I have a writing muscle.
Right.
But I'm also going to have biceps soon. Don't worry. I'm working on them.
I love that. So when a book comes out, what's the process afterwards? Like once the book is ready, let's say, I have this book.
So
with
the art,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's in your hand. How do you go about marketing this book?
Oh my God. So
what's harder,
there's
writing it or marketing
no,
it?
the writing part for me is really not the hard part. It's the marketing piece that's tricky for me because I'm really good at helping other people and I'm really good at offering my help and following through on it. I'm super bad at asking people for help. It is not a thing that I'm comfortable doing. I'm not great at saying like, hey, I know you know this person, they could really help. I'm just not good at that. Even just talking about it now makes me want to like, ugh. I'm not good at this part of it. I am lucky in that my books are with big 5 publishers. These are Little Brown books, like Little Brown is Hachette. I have books with Penguin. They have marketing teams, so and that's wonderful. They're wonderful, and they do so much for these books.
Yeah, and you need that. I mean,
but the work also, like authors, I think, do need to reach out for their own networks and in their own communities, and that's tricky for me. I'm trying to be better at it, but it's tricky for me.
Oh, well, you're doing a great job. Don't worry about it. You're good. So tell me, Raakhee, talking about marketing again, do you feel the pressure to show up online on social media to be relevant or to stay active for your readers?
So the good news is that I am irrelevant. In the course of life and in people's day-to-days, I am an irrelevance, and I like this very much. Social media for me is fun because I'm very clear about what I do. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on X. I'm not I'm not doing any of this stuff because it's not who I am. And I'm not going to do it. I'm on Instagram. I'm comfortable there. I like it. I tell people the things that speak to me from my heart. It's not every day. It's not consistent. All these social media experts, I once hired someone. They're like, you need to have a schedule. And I was like, can't do it. Never going to do it. Doesn't work for me. I know I should. I know I should. It's good for business and it's good for marketing and all these things. But I like to exist in a very real way. And if it's not real and it's on a schedule, I'm not going to do it.
That's fine. I mean, whoever connects with you in
That's
the
it.
most authentic way. If
I
they
can't
relate
imagine.
with you, they relate with you.
I can't imagine having a schedule of things that I'm supposed to feel next week. Are you nuts? I can't do that.
I mean, great. A lot of people do it and do it well. And I really appreciate that.
I wish I
Yeah.
could. I just don't know how. I'm not good at it. I'm good at telling people something real about myself or my kid or my life. I feel very happy to do. But I'm not I'm not good at social media. I'm just not. I'm good at real life. If people want to sit down and have a chat, I'll crush it. I'm great at that. But this whole online world, I wish I was good at it. I'm really also trying to be better at it, but it's hard.
It is hard to show up every day. And if you're trying to be authentic, showing up every day is hard, right? We're living our lives, we're doing our thing.
And then you have to do your hair. And then you have to wear pants. And I just want to wear sweatpants and put my hair in a bun and walk around my apartment. It's hard for me.
You're funny, Raakhee. Oh, well. Anyways.
That's the real truth. If I could sit in my gown, I wear these kaftans and sit in my house. My daughter always says, she goes, man, if people could see you now. It's I know. This is what my life is like.
That's so funny. Going back to your family for a moment. You spoke about your husband, you spoke about Satya, your daughter. You have a multicultural family with you and your husband from two different religions. Yeah. What's your experience like raising a daughter? Although, of course, both from the diaspora, but still very different cultures. It's very different. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we're Sindhi, as I said. So my grandparents left Sindh, Pakistan, right, which is it's a partition story. And so my one set of grandparents went to the Philippines and my second set of grandparents went to South America. And so my dad was born, as I said, in the Philippines, my mother in South America. They later came to India. My parents had an unencouraged, though.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because Sindhi, there's a sort of rich Sindhi tradition that's very closely, for many of us, very closely related to the Sikh faith and the Sikh culture. So my parents had an unencouraged at a Sindhi mandir.
Okay.
I know.
Unheard of.
So it's very, for us, is very normal. So when Agan and I met, we got married, all of those things, we had Satya, it was so clear to us and so easy. Because I do think that people, especially, when you live in the United States, we are many things at one time.
Right.
We are Indians and Americans, right? We are Sikhs and Hindus and Punjabi and Sindhi, but ultimately, we're just a family and we do the things that work for us. Satya is very lucky to be in a incredible Khalsa school program, which we love and are obsessed with in Oakland. And I can see the huge benefits that it has for her as a human being. She's super proud of her identity. She's proud of her religion, her culture, her hair, all of those things. But most importantly, it creates this sense of she's so clear about how she needs to serve her community. And to me, that is exactly, Seva that is the main event of life. And so if that is the faith path, this is perfect for us. This is our value as a family.
Right.
And so I think it transcends, the values transcend the labels.
Talking about nonprofit organizations, I know you're on the board of a few nonprofit organizations, especially organizations trying to fight cancer for children. Tell me about that. What's your process of associating with these organizations?
Yeah, so we're a really blessed family. Satya had cancer when she was an infant. About 6 months old, 5 months old, 6 months old. We saw some dark days at the beginning of our start as a family. She'll be 10 years cancer-free this year, so actually just in a couple of days. And so it's really, we live in a constant state of gratitude and a constant state of understanding that none of these days were promised to us and none of these days were guaranteed. Because I was a new mom who was really clear that my next days were not guaranteed.
I mean, with postpartum,
oh my God,
I can't even imagine what you must have gone through.
It was me and my massive breast pump and my sick baby. And people, I know people talk about like, oh my God, my maternity, mine was awful. Her whole first year was awful. And it was a fight. Every day was a fight. And I feel like all of these things happened in my life. So I was really clear about what I needed to do with my time. I work full time. I write books. That's all wonderful. The most important work that I do, and I am very clear about this, the most important work I do is the service to my community. Every single day, I think about the boards I serve on, whether it's Kids with Cancer, whether it's the Hoboken Homeless Shelter, whether it's Stevens Cooperative School, whether it's childhood literacy, and I think about what am I doing today for my community and for the people every single day. And I think that that is the most anchoring feeling in the world for me because, look, these books are great and I love them and I want people to buy them. Sure. But the truth is they're not who I am. They're what I do. So much of my heart is in them, but who I am is the service, is the way that I show up for people. That's who I am.
That's incredible. And I appreciate that so much about you. I appreciate that. I know you've been very vocal about, local businesses that you support. It's so wonderful. I love that.
It all comes back, though, for me to people. Like, I'm obsessed with people. So if I go to a local business and, like, I meet the people.
So I'm not labeling you as introvert, for sure.
Exactly. But then all of a sudden, it's like, people always laugh. They're like, it's your family business. I was like, I do feel like it is. I do feel like it is, these places, because I connect to the person and then I don't know, I want all the good things for all of us. Like I really do.
So you wrote a very insightful piece for CNN on Dr. Vishwakumar.
Oh my God.
Devi's mom. We're talking about people, we're talking about family, characters. So I wanted to bring it up. I read that piece and when it first came out and I loved it. So why do you think she resonates with so many of us, and what does that character mean to you?
Oh my God. Melanie was one of the greatest TV characters of all time. First of all, she's played so perfectly by Poorna Jagannathan, who I think is just exceptional. But what I loved about Nalini Vishwakumar was she gave our brown moms a place in pop culture that we deserve but never had. I was really hard on my mom growing up. I'm still hard on her, and she shows up for me every day. She's at my house right now taking care of my kid, And my mom lived in 3 different countries, in 3 different cities. She had come to the United States a year before I was born. She was an Indian woman raising an American daughter. The first time she came to the United States was to live here. Like my mom is the most, she's brilliant. She's confident. She plays pickleball with strangers multiple times a week. You know what I mean? Like,
that's cool.
She's the coolest. She's literally the coolest. She was the preserver of our culture. She was the reason why I felt the pride that I did for where I come from. Because if it was up to the world, I would have very, very quickly, as a young girl, been like, I'm all done with this Indian stuff. I'm an American girl. But she reminded us every single day who we were, what we were here for, what our values were, what we wanted out of life, what she wanted for us. I remember my mom telling me at a young age, like my mom had arranged marriage, my mom and dad, and my dad, another one, came to this country, worked tirelessly with so much effort, still works, right? My dad's 70 years old, still works. God bless him. He's just the greatest man. And I saw the sacrifices that they made for us. And they were huge sacrifices. Right. They left home, they left family, they left country. They barely even had a social group here because they were so concerned with us at a young age. Like, I watched it all, you know? And I think so much about seeing Nalini in that role, seeing Purna play her like that. I felt like it made me proud of the pop culture piece of it all because I want people to know how we live, who we are. Right. You know, also she was
the work
really,
that goes into it. You know, she is a full-time doctor. She has a job, but she comes home.
She's also so funny.
Yeah, like, she might not be emotionally available all the time, but still, you know.
But who is?
Yeah.
I would watch it and die laughing. Like, it's just hysterical. And like, I loved the idea that in this Hollywood world, in this TV mom world where there was so, you know, Claire Huxtable and whatever. And you get Nalini Vishwakumar.
Exactly.
I'll take her. I like her. I'd
beautiful.
be friends with her, you know?
Love that. Anyways, ending on a fun this or that. I wrote a few questions for you. I thought we can, you know, try to tackle them quickly.
Yeah.
I'll be super quick.
All right.
You choose what you would prefer. And then we'll take it from you.
All right.
Okay. Reading a book or listening to an audiobook?
Oh, reading a book.
Hardcover, paperback?
Paperback.
Fairy tales or adventure stories?
Adventures.
Okay. Sesame Street or Bluey?
Sesame Street, but I love Bluey too.
You gotta pick. You have to pick.
Sesame Street.
Okay. Pen, paper or laptop?
Laptop.
Dr. Seuss or Roald Dahl?
Neither.
I know why, but
Neither.
Let's not get into that.
Amar Chitrakata.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Superheroes or visits?
Superheroes.
Stand-up comedy or improv theater?
Improv.
Improv. Sweet or savory?
Oh, savory.
Podcast or radio? I'm doubting your South Asian.
I know.
And you didn't pick tea. Oh my God.
No, I can't live without coffee. I can't even live without it.
A podcast or radio?
Podcast.
Okay. Classic rock or pop music?
Classic rock.
Early bird or a night owl?
Oh my God, I'm both of them. I'm a freak of nature.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
That's awesome. Works in your favor. Puzzles or board games?
Board games.
Dancing or singing?
Oh, dancing.
Oh, well, love it. Well, thank you so much, Raakhee. This was wonderful.
Was so fun.
Thank you so much for coming to my studio today and talking to me today and sharing your beautiful journey, more about your family, your daughter, and lovely books coming out soon. I'd love to give a shout out to Mama's Roti, which is coming out
October 28th.
October 28th. And Kamla raised her hand. Same day, right?
Same day.
Oh my God, so exciting. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. You're making some great space, Jasmine. Thank you for having me.